Hey, good day to you. This is Todd. I'm a regular dude walking in the Word. So regular that there's times that I sneeze, and so then I re-record the whole episode because you don't want to hear a sneeze in here. And then today also we're back in the studio here, and the property next door, they're fixing a house that had caught fire. So you'll hear that going on. You'll hear it through the next several episodes too, hammers and everything going, and then you hear trucks going by too and everything. So, but listen, I'm just a regular dude walking in the Word, and we're going through Philippians, and Philippians has a lot of good stuff. And these are like one-liners almost that Paul is throwing out as he's getting ready to conclude the letter here. And we talked about yesterday rejoicing in the Lord always. And then today he's saying, don't be anxious about anything. And you've met people that are anxious about everything. It drives you nuts, especially if your kids are anxious about stuff. And then it really drives you nuts. They're like, I don't know, you're at Home Depot getting something, and they're like, can we go? There's no toys here, something like that. It doesn't help the situation, it just annoys you more. Well, God doesn't want us to be anxious about anything. And so this is taken from Philippians 4, verses 6 and 7 today. It says this: do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your request to God, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Okay, it's pretty simple. But I wanted to go over this just a bit here. He's saying don't be anxious about anything, but in every situation. So every situation, you're not to be anxious. So that sometimes we get the idea that like, if it's really, really bad, then I can be anxious about it. No, he's saying in every situation. It's easy for us to not be anxious about simple things, but when the difficult things come at us, then we're like, oh no, and you're all worried about it. And he says, but by prayer and petition, you start with that, by prayer and petition, and then with thanksgiving, present your request to God. So with thanksgiving, a lot of times when I'm praying, I start out with thanking God for the good things that I have, rather than lay it on like, oh God, you got to help me. There are times when you're praying that you start out like, oh God, you got to help me. Okay. But for the most part, it should be coming to God with thanksgiving first. Okay. If you're in a conversation and the only time you ever talk to that person, or that person talks to you, is when they need something, it's not that great of a relationship. Okay. But when they're grateful for what you have done, that makes you perk your ears up and listen. Okay. And Paul is saying, start out with that, give everything to God. Okay. And then do it starting out with thanksgiving, giving your request to God. And then he says, and the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, we don't even understand all the peace of God, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. So when we're not to be anxious, but when we give that stuff to God, okay, it brings about a peace, and then I'm not really worried about it then, because it's in God's hands. Okay. So there comes a situation, and I could be all worried about it, and let's say I have to drive my car, I don't know, to Orlando, and me getting all worried about it, like, oh no, is it going to make it to Orlando, and are the tires going to be okay? And I've driven it to Orlando a bunch of times already, but sometimes people get worked up about that and get all anxious about it. But you know what? Before I start I check the car out, make sure it's okay. But then before I start out, I say, thanks God for this car that I can actually drive to Orlando, and Lord, take care of me as I drive this car, there, and actually take care of me as I drive just to Venice and every other place too. So when we do that, then the peace comes over me, and as that peace is over me, I'm not worried. As I go, up through Tampa and Lakeland over towards Orlando, I'm not worried about the car because that peace is over me. Okay, so that's just kind of a simple illustration, but hopefully it helps you understand. Don't be anxious about stuff. but give it to God, and then His peace will come upon you. All right. Hey, thanks. I am just a regular dude walking in the Word, and I'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow as we continue our journey through Philippians. Lord's blessing. I'll see you then.